It isn't until the live record that we pull it out live. I can't remember where we were pulled it out live, but the night we did, we all looked around each other and went.
A single court filing, submitted in the summer of 2026, did something 2 years of denials and countersuits had never managed to do. It put a real name, in black and white, into the public record of the case the world had only ever known through the pseudonym Jane Roe. Her lawyers call it an accident. Garth Brooks' lawyers call it proof she never deserved anonymity in the first place. And however it happened, the woman at the center of one of country music's most explosive legal battles is no longer as hidden as she once was, and that shift alone has changed the shape of the fight. For a story about a man built on open roads, open stages, and an open, easygoing image, this is a case that has stayed remarkably closed off from the public eye, right up until it wasn't. Garth Brooks spent decades as the biggest-selling solo artist in American music history, a title backed by the Recording Industry Association of America's own certification numbers, and an artist whose stadium tours, Central Park concert, and Vegas residency turned him into something close to a national institution. That reputation is precisely why, when a woman identified only as Jane Roe filed a civil complaint against him in October of 2024, the case did not stay a quiet legal matter. It became a story that forced fans to sit with an uncomfortable question. What happens when the allegations arrive not from a tabloid, but from a courtroom? According to the original complaint, filed in federal court in California and reported at the time by Today.com, the woman said she began working as a hairstylist and makeup artist for Trisha Yearwood in 1999, and was later hired directly by Brooks in 2017. Her filing alleged a pattern of unwanted conduct that escalated over time, and centered on a claim that in May of 2019, during a work trip tied to a Grammy tribute event, Brooks raped her in a Los Angeles hotel room. The complaint also described other incidents of alleged sexual battery. These are, it must be said clearly, allegations laid out in a civil filing, not findings made by any court, and Brooks has denied every part of them from the moment they became public. What made the case unusual from the outset was the timeline behind it. Newsweek reported that Brooks, in a statement issued the night the lawsuit broke, said he had spent the 2 months prior being, in his words, hassled with threats and demands for a payout running into the millions, and that he viewed any such payment as an admission of guilt he was not willing to make. His language was blunt. He described the pressure as being like having a loaded gun waved in his face, and insisted that paying what he called hush money was simply not something he was prepared to do. It was a rare moment of a major star responding to a rape allegation not with silence or a brief publicist's line, but with a lengthy, defiant statement delivered within hours. That statement made more sense once the earlier half of the story came out. Roe's legal team was not the first to go to court. Weeks before her California complaint was filed, Brooks' attorneys had quietly filed their own lawsuit in federal court in Mississippi, using the pseudonyms John Doe and Jane Roe for both parties. NBC News, in reporting by Yanel Griffith, laid out the sequence. According to that Mississippi filing, an attorney for the woman had sent a demand letter in July of 2024 alleging sexual misconduct and threatening legal action unless Brooks paid a multi-million-dollar settlement. Brooks' side characterized this as extortion. Her side, once she filed in California days later, framed it differently, saying she had always intended to bring her claims in that state and to use his real name, since anonymity had never been requested for him going into that filing. The dispute over names became its own battlefield, almost a case within the case. Once Brooks was named publicly in the California complaint, his legal team amended the Mississippi lawsuit to include the woman's real name as well, arguing that she had forfeited any right to a pseudonym once she'd made the choice to name him. Her attorneys, Douglas H. Wigder, Gene Christensen, and Haley Baker, responded with fury, telling reporters, as NBC News documented, that Brooks had shown his true character by naming, in their words, a rape victim out of spite and a desire to punish her for coming forward. They said they intended to seek the maximum available sanctions against him for it. Brooks' team held their position, arguing that no law required the use of pseudonyms in cases like this, and that he had only used them in the first place to try to protect both families involved, including his own daughters. Those early skirmishes look almost like a preview of what has now unfolded. Reporting from Whiskey Riff earlier this summer detailed a new and, for Roe's side, deeply awkward development in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, where the fight over her anonymity has continued long after the original filings. According to that reporting, Roe's own legal team filed record excerpts in the appellate case on May 20th of 2026 that contained both parties' full legal names, spelled out in a public court document, in the very appeal meant to determine whether she could continue using a pseudonym at all. The filing reportedly sat unsealed and publicly accessible on the court's docket for more than a month before anyone moved to redact or correct it. Brooks' legal team did not let the moment pass quietly. In their own brief, they pointed directly to the mistake, arguing that a woman fighting to protect her anonymity had, through her own filing, waived the very protection she was asking the court to grant her. It is the kind of irony that tends to define this case at every turn, a fight over secrecy undone by the paperwork of the fight itself. Whether the appellate court treats this as a meaningful legal waiver, an inadvertent clerical slip that changes nothing, or something in between, remains to be seen, and it is worth being cautious here, since an accidental filing error is a very different thing from someone choosing, of her own will, to step into public view. That distinction matters, because there is a meaningful difference between a woman's name appearing in a legal exhibit and a woman choosing to speak. So far, by every public record available, Roe has not given an on-camera interview, has not issued a personal statement outside of her attorney's filings, and has continued, through her legal team, to pursue this fight from behind a legal shield that has now been partially, and by most accounts unintentionally, pulled back. What has broken is not her silence in the sense of a tell-all interview, but the wall of anonymity that had, up to this point, allowed her to make some of the most serious allegations imaginable against one of the most recognizable men in American music without her own name attached to them. For Brooks, the timing could hardly be worse, or perhaps, depending on how his legal strategy plays out, hardly better. In May of 2025, U.S. District Judge Henry T. Wingate ruled that Roe's motion to dismiss the Mississippi case was moot, allowing that action to continue moving forward even as the California case remained on hold pending developments elsewhere. That ruling meant Brooks' countersuit, the one alleging extortion, was very much alive at the same time his accuser suit was still working its way through a separate court. Reports at the time suggested the entire process, given the complexity of dueling jurisdictions and appeals, could stretch on for months or, more likely, years. And all of this has unfolded while Brooks' public and professional life has, on the surface, continued almost undisturbed. He and Trisha Yearwood performed together at Jimmy Carter's funeral in January of 2025. He stood by her side in March of that year as she received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, visibly emotional during the ceremony. Reports in June of 2026 indicated Brooks was in discussions about selling his music catalog in a deal that could be worth close to $2 billion, a staggering figure that speaks to just how much commercial value still surround his name, lawsuit or no lawsuit. An unnamed source close to the situation described the ongoing legal fight, in comments picked up by entertainment outlets, as the most stressful chapter of his life, a dark cloud that never quite lifts no matter how many stadiums still sell out or how many awards still get handed to his wife with him standing proudly beside her. There is another layer to this story that has often gotten lost beneath the legal maneuvering, and that is how Brooks chose to address his fans directly in the early days of the case. Days after the lawsuit became public, he appeared on his regular fan chat, Inside Studio G, streamed through TalkShop Live, and told viewers, according to reporting picked up at the time, that he wanted to address what he called the elephant in the room. He warned his audience that the legal process could take up to 2 years, and asked them, in his words, to take a deep breath, settle in, and take the trip together, because it was something that simply could not be fully discussed while it remained active in the courts. It was a strange, almost intimate moment, a superstar speaking to his most loyal fans the way he might speak to family at a kitchen table, even as federal filings piled up describing some of the most serious allegations a person can face. Roe's legal team, for their part, used their own public statements to push back hard against the idea that their client's case was some kind of shakedown. In a statement issued when the California complaint was filed, they said they applauded their client's courage in coming forward, and argued that predatory behavior exists across every corner of the entertainment industry, country music included, not just in the corners of Hollywood or the music genres more accustomed to scandal. They said they were confident Brooks would be held accountable, and they closed by encouraging anyone else who may have experienced similar treatment to come forward, adding that no survivor should have to suffer in silence. It is a phrase that, read again now, carries an added